Nanook protective cases are my choice to transport firearms and other valuable items. I love the Power Claw latching system. Check out their cases in the link in the description.
Okay, so yesterday we saw Bill do a dry fire drill where he did the 5-second countdown. We call that the walk back drill or the walk down drill, or lots of different things. Steph and I use it in just about every class that we do. The reason being that as John has looked at 30 or a million videos now, the answer for winning a self-defense in the self-defense context of winning that fight is typically the first person that gets shots into the media beats of the other person wins. That's, would you call that a direct quote?
Yes.
Okay.
Almost always wins.
Almost always wins, right? So, you know, I hear a lot of people, and I had a guy call me out on this. He's like, not everybody needs to be shot. So I don't know why you're so worried about quickness and speed and all that. And I told him, I was like, you know, they don't all need to be shot, but if they do need to be shot, would you rather be the fast one or the slow one? Your call.
If he does need to be shot, you probably should hurry.
Yep.
Does he need
Now,
a holster or what?
right, yeah.
Does
Right.
he need to be shot? Does
So-
he need to be shot quickly?
So if he needs to be,
shot quickly?
if somebody needs to be shot, they need to be shot quickly. And I know the whole adage of you can't miss fast enough to win a gunfight, but I can miss fast first time and still get you with my second one before you can get the first one out in most cases anyway. So I'm just joking mostly, kinda. So, you know, there's,
You're not going to get it.
right, no, I don't want to, I'm not looking for a fight, but if you can go fast, you can build on accuracy from that. So the whole point of all of this is that we are looking to get you out of the holster and onto target quickly. It's no different than any other vehicle that gives you speed. It's no different than your car or truck when you're driving down the road. Yeah, most of our vehicles will do 100 miles an hour or better, but we don't need that, right? Unless something bad happens and you need to get to a hospital pretty quick, it's kind of nice to have that speed, isn't it? So if something bad happens and you need a 0.9 draw, I'd rather have it and not have to use it than not have it and find myself in trouble later down the road. And it's like that with everything, with your med kits, your tourniquets, all of that other stuff. So we teach this as a way to give you a skill that you can work on. This is a perishable skill. If I take a month off, my draw goes to heck and things get ugly. But so it's something that you can do in dry fire. You can do it every night of the week. You can do it a couple of times a week. It's really up to you how you want to do it. But the point of this drill is to be able to react quickly and get your job done as fast as you possibly can. It's also the opportunity for you to learn what you can and where you're at. If your wall is a 1.2, okay, that's where you are. You know, the force science training, I have not been to it, but I've heard enough stuff from the people that have been there that there's some actual science that says, you know, with a flat 1 second draw, you've got a better chance if you got a chance to win the fight if the bad guy looks away, even if the gun's on you. Now, I don't know about you. I'm not sure I'm going to take that chance, but I'd sure rather have the decision on my heart whether I'm going to take that chance or not. Because if that gun's pointed at myself, maybe I'm not. But if it's pointed at a loved one, and it's, you know, I'm going to make that decision to save my loved one's life, right? Every time, and so are you guys, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna line up here. We're gonna use the back of these tables so we can stay in the shade and stay cool. This is gonna take us about an hour. When we do this in class, this is about a two and a half hour process, depending on the class. A lot of you have done this, and so you're gonna see the really edged down version of this, and we're going to walk around and coach. But the way that we do it is everybody lines up dry, facing down, and we start at a 5-second draw, and we do typically 15 to 20 reps at 5 seconds to just find out where the rusty spots and where things are kind of rough in people's draw. And then we start just sanding away and cleaning stuff up. And then we move down to 4 seconds, and then we move down to 3, and then we move to 2.5 and 2.3 and 2 and 1.5, and then we come all the way down, and in a lot of classes we'll stop at about a .6, and you'll be shocked that there'll be 5 or 6 people that at the beginning of a class, when we did our draw to first shot in the 10-shot skill check, that were at like a 2-second draw, are all of a sudden down to 1.1, 1.0 .9s. It's crazy when they get these reps and they get to myelinate that. You guys all read the book, right? So the thing that I will caution you through this is that we're myelinating every time we're moving. So when you go back to the holster, you're myelinating that. If you are rushing back to the holster and you're not doing a good, clean holster up as you're putting your gun away, you're myelinating a bad habit. Okay, so for the most part, I'm focused on you getting the gun out and getting it on the target. But secondarily, I am watching you as well on that, on putting that away. And the part that scares me, the first few times that we did this, you know, you'd see people doing that really fast and then jamming it back in. And I'm like, you know what? In about 20 minutes, we're going to be doing this with live guns, right? And everybody's heard that, oh, it doesn't matter, it's unloaded. Okay, I know it's unloaded because I watched you all unload. You all checked each other's guns, and it still makes me nervous as heck that somebody's jamming a gun in there that quickly. Because at the end of the day, if you've myelinated that, what are you going to do when that gun's loaded? Just putting a bullet in the chamber does not change that myelination in your brain, even if you're aware of it. So let's be focused on that as we're doing that. So this is going to be a much shorter and sweeter version of this. We're not going to spend 2 hours out here doing this, but we're going to do about 5 reps at each one, and then we're going to walk down. Now, if we see something that's got us looking at you know, a specific person, we might do 6 or 8, but for the most part, we're going to slow this, or we're going to speed this up by doing a few less reps. You guys can take this, do whatever you want with it on your own, but understand that more reps is better on this. The very first time, and then I'll tell you this and then we'll get started here. The very first time that I watched John do this in a class with us, and he introduced me to it, you know, I watched it, I'm like, okay, this is really cool. And we're talking myelination, and I'm not a science guy, if you can't tell. I can barely form a sentence. So that didn't mean anything to me. But I have got a sister who has had a pretty severe stroke, so a brain injury. We did not think she was going to make it. And you know, the cool thing with you know, modern science is you could see the blood waves in her brain and the x-rays that the doctors were showing us. And this, or I don't know which side, one side of her brain is lit up like a Christmas tree, and that's the blood flow moving through. The other side is black as night, because there's no blood flowing through there. That's a brain injury, right? And so, you know, John started talking about myelination, and I went and read a couple of things, and my little brain wrapped around a little bit of this, and I was like, you know what? She got out of the hospital. It's been about a year. She's, you know, it's weird because she forgets names and she doesn't understand things. So this is literally a brain injury, a traumatic injury. So I took my gun, went to her house one time, and we did this myelination drill. You know, we cleared it and everything, but after about an hour, she was drawing to first shot in 1 second. Now the first few, I mean, she is not a shooter. Yep, she grew up around guns. She was our sister. She never went to the field. She never pulled the trigger. She's never, literally in an hour, I had her drawn and punching out in a good, clean trigger break, not a, you know, not anything ugly. So this legitimately works. Work inside the brain. This is science. It's an interesting thing. So since that day, I've really gone all out on this thing. Love doing it. I do it in my dry fire all the time. Okay, so let's line up here. Use the back of these, or the front of these tables, I guess we'll call it. Okay, so let's go ahead and one last time unload it and check your own gun. You should not have a magazine in unless you absolutely need one to dry fire, and if that's the case, raise your hand so I know it. So nobody has a mag in? You need a mag in? Okay, you're good. Sometimes you have to have a mag in to do the dry fire, so that's okay. Okay, so go ahead and holster up. You should have a live trigger, no ammo, right? We have no ammo. So while I'm setting my part time for the second beak, I'm gonna set it at a 5. Let's do one dry fire draw, nice and slow. And the way that this goes is at the beep, it's 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, 3 Chicago, 4 Chicago, 5 Chicago, click. Would you step right up here in front of everybody and just show them what this looks like? And what I'm gonna do is I wanna describe this. So this is not, do a 2-second draw as I count. 2 seconds? Okay. Yeah, so this is not what I'm looking for. Okay, John, shooter ready? Stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, 3 Chicago, 4 Chicago, 5 Chicago, click. That's not, so see, did you see how John hung out there?
Told me to do it 2 seconds.
No, I did. This was my example. What we see in this a lot of times is people draw out there, they press out there, and then they finish counting, and then they pull the trigger at 5. The point of it is to pull the trigger at 5. Okay, so John, now show him what it actually looks like and listen for his click.
You want 5?
I want a 5, yep. I don't want you hanging out there. Stand by.
1
Chicago, 2 Chicago, 3 Chicago, 4 Chicago, 5 Chicago, click. Okay?
A little fast.
Yep. but he did not hang out there. The point of this is the gun is still moving when you pull the trigger. As instructors, when we do this, one of the things that I like to do is if somebody's really struggling with that and they're pressing it out and hanging out there, I'll step right up beside them and I'll do it with them. I'll do a rep with them. So clear your own guns when you do this as well. And usually if you've got have an AI, just step in and show them how to do it, okay? So we're gonna do 5 at 5 seconds after I get back behind the line. Does everybody, does everybody understand what we're doing? All right, use your voice. Shooters ready, stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, 3 Chicago, 4 Chicago, 5 Chicago, click. Right there, right there, right there. Yep. All right, let's go one more time. Shooters ready? Stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, 3 Chicago, 4 Chicago. I'm gonna put my hand right here. Shooters ready? Stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, 3 Chicago. Oh, that was perfect. Did you feel that difference? Yes. Yep. Now imagine when you're doing this at less than a second. You take that movement out, that's 0.2 of a second right there. All right, one more. It's weird, people take our classes, in some places have taken our class upwards of 4. There's a couple that have come to our class 4 times now just to do this drill. They've paid us well over $1,000 for us to teach them to dry fire. I don't know, I don't get it, but they are great shooters. All right, shooters ready? We're going to we're going to 2.5. Here's what it sounds like. We don't need to do guns.
Just words.
1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, click. 3 should click, is that what it is? 3 should click.
Try it again.
Stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, 3 should click. Okay?
Good, with the guns now.
All right. Shooters ready? Stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, 3 should click. Okay, are we ready? Shooters ready? Stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, click.
Dude, this multi-tape is magic.
Stand by. I'm gonna do one with you. 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, click. Bring that gun right to you. Stand by. Last one, I want to hear 1 click. Stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 Chicago, click. Wow, good job. So now we would typically go from, down to 1.8 to 1.5 to 1.2 to 1.1, and we'd probably throw in a couple of those. We'd change the time without even telling you and explain to you how your brain can't tell the difference in 1/10 of a second and all of that, but we're not going to do all that today because you guys read the book. So we're going to go to 1.5, okay? Now, typically in a class, we would stay in for another hour at this stuff. So understand that this isn't going to be perfect, but you're headed in the right direction here. 1 Chicago, 2 should click. Stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 should click.
You got to count a little faster, my bad.
Stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 should click. Again, stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 should click. One more, 1 click. Stand by. 1 Chicago, 2 should click. So we're gonna move down here. We would typically go from 1.5 to 1.2, then we'd sneak in the 1.1. We're gonna go to 1 second. So here's what it sounds like. 1 Chicago, click. All right, here we go. Shooters ready? Stand by. 1 Chicago, click.
Now, don't give up your counting. 1 Chicago, bang.
Yep.
1 Chicago, bang.
Say it out loud. Stand by. 1 Chicago, click.
You gotta be clear. Start earlier. Good. Not on the eep. Go butt. Go on the butt, not the eep.
Stand by. 1 Chicago.
Bang.
Let your hands go. Stand by. 1 Chicago. So keep that thing down. That's 1/10 of a second. Okay. Stand by. 1 Chicago. That was better. The draw was there. But let your hands move. Make sure all of that stuff that you've worked on for the last 45 minutes.
Stab it out.
Stand by. 1 Chicago,
bang.
click.
Nice.
So when we get down here to the much shorter times, you gotta clear that garment quickly. The garment is what holds us up in a lot of cases, or getting to the grip. So we got to get to that grip very quickly. And again, at home in your practice, that's a micro drill. Just putting your hand on your gun. Shooter ready? Stand by. One Chicago click. All right, I want to hear one click. Stand by. One Chicago click. Now let's try that one more time and get them all in one click at the beep. Move your hands. You got it. It's a rapid movement now. Everything else stays the same process-wise, but we're doing it quickly now. Stand by. One Chicago click. Holy cow, was that one click? It was one click at the beep, right? Let's do that one more time. Stand by. One Chicago click. All right, so now I'm gonna go from .9 that you just did twice in a row down to .8.
Now you're, yeah. We're going from the 0.
Did you see how your brain couldn't tell the difference?
No, I wasn't.
That was, every one of you just had a sub-second draw right there.
0.8 now.
0.8 now.
Hands go.
Now just move quickly. Stand by. One Chicago click. Stand by. One Chicago click. Bicep, bicep, bicep. Just tell yourself bicep. And don't beat yourself up. I do this all the time. I'll beat myself up for the two of us. How's that? Stand by. One Chicago.
8/10 is spicy.
That's moving. We're really moving. Stand by. One Chicago click. Let me hear one click at a .8. Stand by. It's almost one beep, isn't it? Let's talk for just a minute. I've talked to several of you one-on-one as we've gone. I'm going to go front of the line.
Downrange.
So one big secret and one thing where I've come by and talked to most of you about the shoulder, and I fight this. I fight this really bad with mine. When my draw is not there, it's always the shoulder and my chicken wing elbow thing I got going on here. What you want to do to really get out of that holster quickly is to focus on your bicep. You get in, you keep your elbow tucked, and your bicep is pulling that out, not your shoulder. I can recover quick. It's actually part of the motion of pushing it out is I have to move that bicep up anyway. But to push it out, I don't need my shoulder. The shoulder has to come back down. Does that make sense? If I use my shoulder to pull it out, then the shoulder still has to go back down as I'm going out. But if I use my bicep to pull it out, it's already there. And that takes out 1/10 of a second. So that's your difference between your .9 and your .8 in a lot of cases is the shoulder. Same thing with your elbow. If you can keep that elbow tucked, if you pull it out, then the elbow has to come back in. There's another 1/10. So depending on where your challenge is, it's going to be one or the other. In most cases, when we get to speed, and there's a ton more to this. There's the hips that go into it. You see that guy that does one of those and all of that. That's just extra movement that you don't need unless you're going out to, go dancing on Friday night with your wife or something. I don't dance. I don't have the rhythm for it. So maybe that's part of the thing. Maybe I can do it quicker because I got no rhythm anyway. You will see this if you run this drill with people when they're doing it right without the shoulder. If you're standing this far behind them, you can't even tell they drew a gun. All you see is this. This is what it looks like to you. Because they're pulling it with the bicep. Now, if they pull it with their shoulder, then you're like, oh, something weird's going on, and your spidey sense tells you. But if you use the bicep, they don't even know. And you're quicker to boot. All right, I think we're ready to walk down to the berm and actually shoot. So grab your eyes and ears, some magazines to shoot, not read.